Elder June stood alone on the wide observation deck of the Eternal Heritage, his three-fingered hand pressed against the clear viewing panel. Outside, stars shone like tiny white dots against the black of space. June had seen this view for over 300 years, but it still filled him with wonder. Today was special. After 4 centuries of work, their ship was finally complete. June's skin had once been bright blue, but age had turned it pale, almost white. The ridges on his forehead had deepened with time. His eyes, large and silver, had watched generation after generation of his people work on this one ship. The Eternal Heritage was enormous. It stretched 20 kilometers from front to back. Inside were homes for 50,000 Koryo people, farms to grow food, and machines to make everything they would need in space. It had taken the resources of their entire star system to build it. Their ancestors had mined every asteroid and small moon to gather enough metals. June remembered when he was young, just 80 years old, when they had finished the outer shell. Now at 312 years old, he had lived to see it completed. Many others had not been so lucky. "I wish you could see this, Father," June whispered. His father had died 200 years ago after spending his life designing the ship's power system. The door behind him slid open with a soft hiss. June did not turn. He knew who it was from the light footsteps. "Elder June," said a soft voice. "All systems are ready. The final tests are complete." Now June turned. Han stood there, head bowed slightly in respect. Han was young, only 62 years old. His blue skin was still bright, his silver eyes clear and sharp. He was June's best student and would someday take his place as chief architect. "Thank you, Han," June said. "Our ancestors would be proud." Han walked to the viewing panel and stood beside June. 400 years of work, he said. "Sometimes I can hardly believe it." June nodded. When my great-grandfather laid the first foundation stone, he knew he would never see it finished. None of them expected to see the ship completed. They worked for the future, for us. "And tomorrow we launch," Han said, his voice filled with excitement. The ship would take them to another star, one with a planet they could live on. Their own world was dying. Their sun was becoming unstable. In another 1,000 years, it would expand and burn their homeworld. The Eternal Heritage would save their species. "Have you chosen who will go?" Han asked. June nodded slowly. "The council made the final selection yesterday. 50,000 of our best. Scientists, engineers, doctors, teachers, farmers, artists. Enough to start a new colony and preserve our knowledge." Han looked down. "And the rest of us?" "We'll remain here," June said simply. "We will continue our lives for as long as possible. Our children's children may yet build more ships, but this one must launch now, to be sure some of us survive." The population of their world was over 8 billion. Only a tiny fraction could be saved on this one ship. It was a harsh truth they had all accepted long ago. June placed a hand on Han's shoulder. "You will be going, Han. The ship will need good engineers for the long journey." Han's eyes widened. "But you won't be coming?" June shook his head. "I am too old. My place is here with those who remain." Before Han could protest, an alarm sounded, a small tone, not urgent, but unusual. Han pulled out a small device and looked at it. His silver eyes narrowed in confusion. "What is it?" June asked. "The long-range sensors," Han said. "They've detected something strange at the edge of our system." June frowned. "A solar flare? An asteroid?" "No," Han said, looking up. "Ships, many ships, moving very fast toward our system." June stared at him. "Ships? From where? We've never met anyone else." The Koryo had always believed they were alone in the galaxy. They had never found signs of other intelligent life. Their scientists had decided that intelligent life must be very rare, separated by vast distances. "I don't know," Han said, "but they're definitely artificial, and they're coming here." 2 hours later, June stood in the High Council chamber. The room was circular, with 12 seats for the leaders of their world. June, as chief architect, had the right to speak but not to vote. Defense Minister Day paced back and forth. Unlike most Koryo, Day was short and stocky, with dark blue skin and fierce eyes. "How many ships?" Day demanded. Commander Sue, head of the small defense force, looked at her datapad. 123 vessels, she said calmly. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly. They appeared from nowhere. Our sensors picked them up only when they were already inside the outer boundary of our system. "That's impossible," said another council member. "Nothing can move that fast." "Apparently they can," Sue replied. "At their current speed, they will reach our orbit in 2 days." The room fell silent. The Koryo had some defensive capabilities: small ships to patrol their system, weapons to destroy asteroids that might threaten their world, but nothing that could face an unknown fleet of this size. "What do they want?" asked the head counselor, an elderly female named Ra. "Have they sent any message?" Sue nodded. "Yes, counselor. They began transmitting as soon as we detected them. Our computers are still working to decode it, but it appears to be—" "What?" Day demanded when Sue hesitated. "A greeting," Sue finished, "in 12 different mathematical patterns, like they're trying different ways to communicate." "Peaceful, then?" Ra asked hopefully. "We can't be sure." Day cut in. "It could be a trick." June had been quiet, thinking. Now he spoke. "Either way, we should respond. If they're peaceful, we make friends. If not—" He sighed. "We cannot fight such a force. Our only hope would be understanding." The council debated for another hour before agreeing to send a response. A simple mathematical sequence that any intelligent species should recognize as artificial and deliberate. Within minutes of sending the signal, the alien fleet adjusted course slightly. Instead of spreading out as they entered the system, they formed a tight group heading directly toward the Eternal Heritage. "They're coming for the ship," Day said grimly. "Our one hope of survival." "We don't know that," June countered. "Perhaps they detected it as our largest structure and assume it's our center of government." 3 hours later, the aliens responded again. This time, the message was different, a series of images. The computers displayed them on the large screen in the council chamber. The images showed beings that looked surprisingly similar to the Koryo, though smaller, with less pronounced head ridges and a wider variety of skin colors. The final image showed one of these beings with a hand raised, palm forward. "A greeting gesture," Ra suggested. "Or a command to stop," Day muttered. June studied the images carefully. "I believe they're trying to prepare us for their appearance, to show us they are people, not monsters." He looked at Ra. "We should prepare to meet them." Ra nodded slowly. "Very well. Elder June, as our most respected citizen, would you lead the first contact team?" June felt the weight of history settle on his shoulders. 4 centuries they had worked to build one ship to save their species. Now strangers from the stars were coming, strangers who had built many ships and crossed the void between stars with ease. Everything was about to change. The meeting room on the Eternal Heritage was large and circular. The walls were smooth white metal that the Koryo had polished for decades until they shone like mirrors. In the center stood a round table made from the last tree cut down on their home planet 300 years ago. The wood was dark blue and had been treated to last forever. Elder June sat at the table with 5 other Koryo leaders. Defense Minister Day looked nervous, his blue fingers tapping on the table. Head Counselor Ra sat very still, her pale blue face calm despite the tension. Commander Sue wore her formal uniform with its silver markings of rank. Han was there too, representing the younger generation. The final member was Bin, their best language expert. "They will dock in 10 minutes, Commander Sue said, looking at her datapad. "Their ship is much smaller than ours, only about 500 meters long." "A scout ship, perhaps," said Minister Day with suspicion in his voice. "The others wait to attack if this goes badly." June sighed. "We should not assume the worst, Day. Nor should we assume the best?" Day shot back. These aliens built over 100 ships. Why would a peaceful people need so many? No one had an answer. The Koryo had never needed more than a few small ships to patrol their system. The Eternal Heritage was the only vessel they had ever built for long-distance travel. A soft tone sounded and everyone tensed. "They've docked," Commander Su announced. "Their airlock is connecting to ours." June stood up slowly. At his age, sudden movements caused pain in his joints. "Let us greet our visitors with dignity," he said. They walked together to the docking area. 20 guards stood at attention holding stunners, the only weapons the peace-loving Koryo had developed. The guards looked scared but determined. The massive door of the airlock slid open with a hiss. For a moment, nothing happened. Then 3 figures stepped through. The aliens were shorter than the Koryo by about 30 centimeters. Their skin ranged from light tan to dark brown, nothing like the blue shades of the Koryo. They had hair on top of their heads in different colors, black, brown, and one with gray. Their eyes were smaller, but they had the same basic shape: 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. They wore matching dark blue uniforms with different colored markings. For a long moment, both groups just stared at each other. Then the alien in the middle stepped forward and raised a hand, palm out, the same gesture they had shown in their message. The alien smiled, showing white teeth. "Greetings to the people of Koryo," the alien said in perfect, unaccented Koryo language. "I am Captain G of the United Earth Fleet. We come in peace and friendship." June's eyes widened in shock. How could this alien speak their language? Even Bin, their language expert, looked stunned. Seeing their surprise, Captain G touched a small device on his collar. "Our translation technology has analyzed your language from your broadcasts. I hope our pronunciation is acceptable." June stepped forward. "I am Elder June, Chief Architect of the Koryo. We welcome you to our ship, the Eternal Heritage." He hesitated, then raised his hand in the same gesture the alien had used. "How should we address your species?" "We are humans," said Captain G. "From the planet Earth." He gestured to his companions. "This is Science Officer Hyun and Diplomat Tae." June introduced the Koryo delegation. As he did, he studied the humans more carefully. They seemed relaxed, curious, but not threatening. "We have many questions," said Head Counselor Ra, stepping forward. "As do we," said Diplomat Tae with a smile. Her voice was higher than Captain G's. "That is why we have come, to learn and share knowledge." Minister Day could not contain himself any longer. "Why do you have so many ships?" Over 100 were detected entering our system. The humans exchanged glances. "We are explorers," said Captain G. "Our mission is peaceful. We have been searching for other intelligent life for over 50 years. Your system is the 23rd. We have visited, but you are only the 4th living civilization we have found." 23 star systems? Han asked, speaking for the first time. "How is that possible? The nearest star is over 4 light years away." Science Officer Hyun spoke now. His voice was deeper than the others. "We have developed faster than light travel. Our ships can cover 4 light years in about 3 weeks. The Koryo delegation looked at each other in amazement. Such technology seemed impossible. Their own calculations suggested it would take the Eternal Heritage nearly 80 years to reach the nearest star. And that was with their most advanced engines that had taken centuries to perfect. "Perhaps," said Diplomat Tae gently, "we could continue this discussion in more comfortable surroundings. We have much to share." Back in the meeting room, the humans accepted drinks of clear water, but politely declined food, explaining they needed to analyze it first to ensure compatibility with their biology. "Your ship is truly remarkable," said Science Officer Hyun, looking around with genuine admiration. "We detected it from the edge of your system. The design is unlike anything we've seen before." Pride swelled in June's chest. "The Eternal Heritage is the greatest achievement of our civilization. 400 years in the making." The humans looked at each other with expressions June couldn't read. 400 years, Captain G repeated. "To build one ship." "Yes," said June. "Our ancestors, began the design and laid the foundation. Each generation has contributed to its construction. Tomorrow would have been its first launch. Would have been? Asked Diplomat Tay, picking up on his phrasing. June hesitated, then decided on honesty. Your arrival has caused us to delay. We needed to be sure of your intentions first. Captain G nodded. A wise precaution. May I ask why you built this vessel? It seems designed for long-term habitation. Head Counselor Ra answered, Our sun is dying. In about 1,000 years it will expand and destroy our homeworld. The eternal heritage will carry 50,000 of our people to a new home. The three humans looked troubled. Hyun spoke first. Only 50,000? Your population must be in the billions. 8 billion, 300 million, June confirmed sadly. We could only build one ship of this size with the resources available in our system. I see, said Captain G quietly. And how long would your journey take? At maximum speed, about 80 years to reach the nearest suitable star, said Han. The humans exchanged another look, this one clearly concerned. We may be able to help, said Captain G carefully. With your permission, I would like to bring some of our engineers to meet with yours. And perhaps we could show you one of our vessels in return for seeing yours? Minister Day looked suspicious, but June spoke before he could object. We would be honored. Perhaps tomorrow. Today has been overwhelming. Captain G smiled. Of course. We understand this is a lot to take in. As the meeting ended and arrangements were made for the humans to return the next day, June noticed Han speaking quietly with Science Officer Hyun. The young Koryo engineer seemed fascinated by something the human was showing him on a small device. That night, June couldn't sleep. He stood at the viewing window in his quarters looking out at the stars. Among them now were the tiny lights of the human ships, hanging in space like a new constellation. 400 years to build one ship, he whispered to himself. And they came in a fleet of over 100. For the first time in his long life, June wondered if his people had taken the wrong approach. Had their dedication to perfection, to building something meant to last for centuries, blinded them to other possibilities? Tomorrow he would find out how these humans had accomplished what seemed impossible to the Koryo. Tomorrow, everything might change. The next morning, Elder June and Han stood in the docking bay of the human ship called Horizon Seeker. The human vessel was much smaller than the Eternal Heritage, but it hummed with energy and technology that made Han's eyes wide with wonder. Captain G led them through smooth corridors. Unlike the Eternal Heritage with its polished metals and carefully carved details, the human ship was simpler, clean lines, practical designs, but still beautiful in its own way. How old is this ship? June asked as they walked. The Horizon Seeker is one of our newer vessels, Captain G answered. It was completed about 7 months ago. 7 months? Han repeated, not sure he had heard correctly. Captain G nodded. Yes, we began construction after our last mission. It's the 15th ship of this class. June and Han exchanged shocked looks. 7 months to build a starship? The Koryo had spent 20 years just planning the shape of the Eternal Heritage. They entered a large room with windows that showed the stars outside. In the center was a table with displays built into it. Science Officer Hyun was waiting for them. Welcome to our command center, Hyun said. We thought you might be interested in our ship's specifications. He touched the table, and a 3D image of the Horizon Seeker appeared above it. The image rotated slowly, showing all sides of the ship. Our vessel is 527 meters long with a crew of 150, Hyun explained. It can reach a speed of 12 light years per month and can operate continuously for up to 5 years without resupply. Han stepped closer to the display, his face full of disbelief. How is this possible? The power requirements alone would be enormous. We use antimatter reactors, Hyun said, very efficient for their size. Antimatter? June asked. We've only created it in tiny amounts in our laboratories. The containment problems alone. We solved those issues about 70 years ago, Hyun said. It took time to make it safe, but now it's standard. Captain G touched another control, and the image changed to show a fleet of ships. These are the vessels currently in our exploration division. 123 ships, of various classes, all built within the last 15 years. June felt dizzy. The Koryo had put everything they had into building one ship. The humans had built hundreds. How? He asked simply. How can you build so many? Captain G smiled. Perhaps it would be easier to show you. Hyun, can you bring up the construction footage? The display changed again, showing a massive space station. Around it floated what looked like giant mechanical arms and smaller construction ships. As they watched, these machines moved in perfect coordination, assembling a ship piece by piece. This is our main shipyard at Earth orbit, Hyun explained. We have automated much of the construction process. Machines build most of the ship, guided by human engineers. The basic hull of a ship this size takes about 3 weeks to complete. 3 weeks, Han whispered, not 3 centuries. Once the prototype design is tested and approved, we can put it into mass production, Captain G added. The rest of our fleet was assembled over a 9-day period. June had to sit down. Everything he thought he knew about shipbuilding, about what was possible, was being challenged. But the quality, he said finally. Surely ships built so quickly cannot last? They don't need to last for centuries, Hyun explained gently. They're designed to serve for 20 to 30 years, then be recycled and replaced with newer, better models. This concept was foreign to the Koryo. They built things to last forever. The idea of intentionally creating something temporary seemed wasteful, almost disrespectful to the materials used. I understand your surprise, Captain G said, sitting across from June. Our cultures develop different approaches. Where you perfect a single design over generations, we rapidly test many designs. We fail often, learn from those failures and try again. But how do you get enough materials? Han asked. The eternal heritage required us to mine our entire asteroid belt. Nanofabrication, Hyun said, tapping another control. The display showed tiny machines breaking down a large asteroid. These machines take apart matter at the atomic level and reconstruct it to our specifications. We can turn any rock into the exact metals and compounds we need. The process was developed about a century ago, Captain G added. At first it was slow and expensive. Now it's how we build almost everything. June was quiet for a long time. Finally he asked, And you're faster than light travel? How does that work? Hyun smiled. We call it the fold drive. Instead of trying to move faster than light, which is impossible, we fold space itself, creating a temporary shortcut between 2 points, like bending a piece of paper to bring 2 distant dots closer, Han said, understanding. Exactly, Hyun nodded. It took us many years to perfect and many failed attempts. The first test ship was destroyed. The second vanished completely. The third made it halfway to its destination before breaking apart. You lost ships? People died? June was horrified. Yes, Captain G said solemnly. We mourn them as pioneers who gave their lives so others could follow. Each failure taught us something new, brought us one step closer to success. June couldn't imagine the Koryo taking such risks. Their careful nature, their desire for perfection, meant they tested and retested everything in simulations for decades before building anything real. Would you like to see our engineering section? Hyun offered. I believe Han would find it interesting. As they continued the tour, June noticed how excited Han became. The young engineer asked dozens of questions, his eyes bright with new possibilities. The humans answered everything openly, holding nothing back. In the engineering room, June watched as Han and Hyun bent over a display, discussing technical details he couldn't follow. Han looked happier than June had ever seen him. Your apprentice has a quick mind, Captain G said, standing beside June. He understands concepts immediately, that took our own engineers years to develop. Han is special, June agreed. I had hoped he would lead the next generation of shipbuilders. He still can, G said, but perhaps in ways you hadn't imagined. Later, As they prepared to return to the eternal heritage, Han couldn't stop talking about what he had learned. Elder June, their approach to engineering is so different from ours. They don't try to solve every problem before they begin building. They solve the major issues, then adjust and fix things as they go. That seems inefficient, June said. But it's not, Han insisted. By the time we would still be in the planning phase, they've built a working prototype, found its flaws, and created an improved version. June nodded slowly. I'm beginning to understand. Back on the Eternal Heritage, the Koryo leadership gathered to hear what June and Han had learned. The reactions were mixed. It sounds chaotic, Minister Day said with disapproval. Building ships expected to last only decades? Risking lives on untested technology? But look what they've achieved, Han countered. Hundreds of ships. Faster than light. Travel. The ability to evacuate their entire species if needed, not just a tiny fraction. Head Counselor Ra had been silent, listening carefully. Now she spoke. Perhaps, she said thoughtfully, we have something to learn from these humans, and perhaps they have something to learn from us as well. June nodded. The Eternal Heritage may be only one ship, but it is built to last millennia. There is value in both approaches. As the meeting continued, June found his thoughts drifting. 4 centuries of work had produced the Eternal Heritage, a magnificent vessel, the pride of the Koryo. But it would save only 50,000 people. The humans, with their faster methods, their willingness to take risks and learn from failures, could have saved them all. The meeting with the Koryo leaders had been going for 3 hours. Captain G and Diplomat Tay had proposed a partnership. The humans would share their technology with the Koryo. In return, they asked only for cultural exchange and the chance to study the Eternal Heritage's incredibly durable materials. Your hull design is remarkable, Captain G explained. Our scans show it could withstand impacts and radiation levels far beyond what our ships can handle. Minister Day remained suspicious. Why would you help us? What do you really want? Diplomat. Tay smiled patiently. Minister Day, humanity learned long ago that helping others benefits everyone. Knowledge shared is knowledge multiplied, not divided. Before Day could respond, a loud alarm blared throughout both the Eternal Heritage and the human ships. Red lights flashed on the walls. Captain G's hand went to his ear, where he wore a small communication device. His face turned serious as he listened. What is it? June asked, feeling a chill. Long-range sensors have detected a massive energy signature, G said grimly. A fleet is tearing through subspace, heading straight for this system. Another of your human ships? Asked Day. G shook his head. Not human. We call them the Void Harvesters. They're the reason we built so many ships so quickly. The room fell silent. Even Day looked concerned now. What are these Void Harvesters? June asked. A predatory species, Tay explained. They consume technology. They break down ships, stations, even entire colonies to fuel their expansion. We've been fighting them for decades. G touched his communication device again. I need to return to my ship. The harvesters will reach this system in 3 days. 3 days? Ra looked alarmed. What can be done in such a short time? We can evacuate your people, G offered. Not all, but more than your ship could carry. Perhaps 1 million if we use all our vessels. 1 million lives saved instead of 50,000. It was an incredible offer. But June saw the pain in Ra's eyes. Even 1 million was a tiny fraction of their population. And the rest? She asked softly. G was silent for a moment. I'm sorry. We don't have enough ships to evacuate 8 billion people. Han, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. What if we fight? The Eternal Heritage was built to last. Its hull is the strongest material we could create. G looked doubtful. The Eternal Heritage isn't a warship. It has no weapons, no shields, against energy attacks. But it could have, Han insisted. We have the space. We just need the designs. G and Tai exchanged looks. It would take weeks to install proper defensive systems, G said. We have only days. Unless... Han looked at June. unless we use their methods. Quick adaptation. Learning as we go. June felt torn. The Eternal Heritage was the pinnacle of choreo engineering. To modify it hastily without proper planning and testing went against everything he believed in. But what choice did they have? "What exactly are you suggesting, Han?" he asked. "Let the humans help us convert the Eternal Heritage into a battleship," Han said. "We have the space, the power systems, and the strongest hull ever built. They have the weapons technology and the combat experience." G nodded slowly. It could work. The Eternal Heritage is massive. With its power output, it could support weapon systems more powerful than anything in our fleet. And it would take the harvesters by surprise, Tay added. "They've faced our ships before, but nothing like yours." June looked at Ra and the other leaders. "The decision is yours." Ra stood up. "We will put it to a vote. But first, I want to know more about these harvesters. Why do they attack? Can we negotiate?" "We've tried," G said sadly. "They don't communicate in any way we understand. They appear, they consume, they move on. We've lost 17 colonies to them." "And fighting is the only option?" Day asked, his earlier suspicion replaced by grim focus. "The only one we've found that works," G confirmed. "They retreat if they face significant losses." The choreo leaders voted. The decision was unanimous. They would convert the Eternal Heritage into a warship and make their stand. The next 2 days were unlike anything in choreo history. Teams of human engineers arrived on the Eternal Heritage. They worked alongside choreo engineers, teaching as they installed new systems. Han led the choreo team, absorbing human methods and technology at an amazing speed. June watched with a mixture of pride and worry as sections of the beautiful ship were modified, new systems grafted onto the ancient design. "It feels wrong," June said to Captain G as they observed a team installing a particle cannon in what had been a garden space. "We spent decades making sure every part of this ship was perfect. Now we're changing it in days." "I understand," G said. "But sometimes adaptation is necessary for survival." June nodded slowly. "Perhaps that is what we lost over the centuries, the ability to adapt quickly. We became so focused on perfection that we forgot about survival." In the engine room, Han worked with Science Officer Hyun to modify the Eternal Heritage's power core. The choreo ship had massive power reserves, designed to last for the decades-long journey to a new home. Now that power would feed weapons instead. "Your power distribution system is incredible," Hyun said, studying the complex network. "It's more efficient than anything we've developed." "Thank you," Han said, feeling a surge of pride. "My father's father designed it. But your weapons technology is amazing. I would never have thought of using plasma in this way." Hyun smiled. "That's the benefit of sharing knowledge. Both sides gain." On the second day, June toured the modified ship with Ra. The Eternal Heritage was now bristling with weapons. Shield generators had been installed at key points. The command center had been converted into a battle bridge. "It's not what we planned," June said sadly. 400 years of work and we've changed it in 2 days. Ra placed a hand on his arm. "But it's still our ship, June. And now it might save not just 50,000, but all of us." That evening, Captain G called an emergency meeting. His face was grim. "The harvesters have accelerated," he announced. "They will reach this system in 12 hours, not tomorrow as we predicted." "Are we ready?" Day asked. "No," G admitted. "We've installed the main weapons and shields, but the secondary systems aren't complete. The targeting computers haven't been fully calibrated." Han stepped forward. "Then we'll finish in the time we have. The choreo engineers will work through the night." G looked doubtful. "Without proper rest, mistakes will happen," Han finished for him. "And we will fix them as they come. Isn't that the human way?" G smiled slowly. "It is indeed." As the meeting ended, June pulled Han aside. "You've changed," he said. Han nodded. "I've learned that there's more than one way to solve a problem. The human method isn't better or worse than ours, just different. They create quickly and fix problems as they arise. We plan carefully to avoid problems. Both approaches have value. June felt a strange mixture of sadness and pride. His student had surpassed him, adapting to new ideas faster than June could. Lead the night team, June said. Make our ship ready for battle. As Han hurried away, June walked to the observation deck. Outside, the human fleet was moving into defensive positions around the Eternal Heritage. Over 100 ships, arranged in a pattern that Captain G had explained was designed to focus their firepower while protecting each other. The stars looked the same as they always had. But somewhere out there, the Void Harvesters were coming. Tomorrow would bring the greatest test the Koryo had ever faced, and they would face it in a ship that had been built over 4 centuries and modified in 2 days. The command center of the Eternal Heritage hummed with tense activity. Where once there had been calm Koryo engineers monitoring life support systems, now there were both Koryo and humans working side by side at weapon stations. Elder June stood beside Captain G at the main control platform. The large display showed the approaching harvester fleet, over 200 ships of various sizes, moving in a tight formation. They will be here in 30 minutes, G said. His voice was calm, but June could see the tension in his eyes. Are we ready? June asked. G nodded. As ready as possible. Your people worked miracles last night. I've never seen engineers learn new systems so quickly. Han approached them, looking tired but focused. The final weapons are online. Shield systems are at maximum capacity. And the special modification? G asked. Han smiled slightly. Ready. Engineer Min says it's the craziest thing he's ever helped build, but it should work. June looked between them. What special modification? A surprise for the harvesters, Han said. Using your power core design in a way it was never intended to be used. Before June could ask more questions, Minister Day entered the command center. For once, he looked impressed rather than suspicious. The human fleet is in position, he reported. They're linked to our communication systems. G nodded and touched a control. His voice echoed throughout both the Eternal Heritage and the human fleet. All ships, this is Captain G. The enemy will arrive in 25 minutes. Remember the plan. Protect the Eternal Heritage until it can get into firing position. Its main weapons are our best hope. June felt strange hearing their ship of peace and salvation described as a weapon, but he understood now that survival sometimes required adaptation. Elder June, G said, turning to him. Your people built this ship. You should give the final order. June was surprised. But I'm not a military leader. Today, you are, G said simply. June looked around at the mixed crew, humans and Koryo working together to save both their peoples. He straightened his back and spoke clearly. Prepare for battle. May the wisdom of our ancestors guide our actions today. The minutes passed slowly. On the display, the harvester fleet grew larger. Now they could see the individual ships, black, angular vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They're scanning us, reported a human officer. They'll detect our weapons soon. Let them, G said. We want them to focus on us, not the planet. The first attack came suddenly. A group of smaller harvester ships broke from the main fleet, accelerating toward the human vessels on the right flank. They're testing our defenses, G explained. Trying to find weak points. The human ships moved with practiced coordination, their weapons firing in precise patterns. 3 harvester ships exploded, but more took their place. They're ignoring the Eternal Heritage, Han observed. They don't see it as a threat. Good, G said. Keep us on course for the target position. The battle spread quickly. Soon the space around the Koryo homeworld was filled with weapons fire. The human fleet moved in complex patterns, drawing harvester ships away from the Eternal Heritage as it moved steadily toward a position behind the main harvester fleet. June watched with a mixture of horror and fascination. The humans fought with the same efficiency they brought to building ships, quick decisions, rapid adjustments, learning from each moment. We're taking losses on the left flank, reported Commander Su, who was coordinating with the human fleet. The harvesters are adapting to our attack patterns. They always do, G said grimly. Change to pattern Delta 6. How soon until the Heritage is in position? 6 minutes, Han reported. A massive explosion lit up the display. One of the larger human ships had been hit by multiple harvester weapons. It broke apart, secondary explosions tearing through its hull. The Stellar Dawn is lost, a human officer reported. Escape pods launching. G's face showed pain, but his voice remained steady. Continue the attack. Protect those pods. 3 more human ships were lost in the next 5 minutes. The harvesters were learning, their attacks becoming more coordinated. But the human fleet continued to fight, drawing the enemy's attention. Away from the Eternal Heritage, we're in position, Han announced finally. G turned to June. It's time for your ship to show what it can do. June nodded and gave the order. Activate main weapons. The Eternal Heritage shuddered as power flowed through systems that hadn't existed 2 days ago. On the underside of the massive ship, panels slid open, revealing weapon ports that had been worked into the hull design. Target the Harvester command ship, G ordered. All power to the main cannon. Han worked the controls, his fingers moving with new confidence. Targeting. Energy levels at maximum. The ship vibrated again, more strongly this time. June could feel the massive power of the Eternal Heritage being channeled in ways its designers had never imagined. Fire, June ordered. A beam of intense, blue-white energy erupted from the front of the Eternal Heritage. It cut through space like a knife, hitting the largest harvester ship directly. The black vessel's hull cracked open, energy pouring out from the wound. A moment later, it exploded in a silent flash of light. Direct hit, Han shouted. Their command ship is destroyed. The effect on the harvester fleet was immediate. Their coordinated attack patterns broke apart. Some ships began to retreat while others attacked wildly. Now for the special modification, G said. Han? Han nodded and opened a secure channel. Engineer Min, activate the pulse generator. Deep in the engineering section of the Eternal Heritage, Min and a team of Choreo engineers activated the device they had built through the night. It used the ship's massive power core in a new way, creating a pulse of energy that spread outward in all directions. When the pulse hit the harvester ships, their systems failed. Lights went out, weapons stopped firing, engines died. It worked, Han exclaimed. The pulse disabled their technology. All ships attack now, G ordered. Target the disabled vessels before they can recover. The human fleet moved in, weapons blazing. Harvester ships exploded one after another, unable to defend themselves. Those that could still move began to retreat, accelerating away from the Choreo system. They're running, Day said, disbelief in his voice. We won, G confirmed, thanks to the Eternal Heritage. The command center erupted in cheers, humans and Choreo celebrating together. Han hugged Min, who had rushed up from engineering. Even Minister Day was smiling. June felt a complex mix of emotions. Pride in what their ship had accomplished, sadness for the human lives lost, and wonder at how quickly everything had changed. Elder June, Captain G said, approaching him. Your ship saved both our peoples today. June nodded slowly. Not my ship anymore. Ours. The Eternal Heritage is now part of both our histories. Later, as repair teams worked to fix the damage from the battle, June and G stood on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. What happens now? June asked. That depends on what your people want, G replied. We can help you modify more of the Eternal Heritage for your journey. Or we could teach you to build more ships, faster ships. Or perhaps, June said thoughtfully, we could do both. Keep what is best about our approach, building things to last, to endure, but learn from your method too, to adapt, to change when needed. G smiled. I think that would be wise. Our civilizations have much to teach each other. Han joined them, carrying plans for new modifications to the ship. I've been thinking, he said excitedly. If we combine our hull design with human fold, drive technology, we could create ships that are both fast and incredibly durable. June looked at his apprentice with pride. Han represented the future, the best of both approaches. We spent centuries building one ship, June said. Humanity made hundreds in a week. But together, we can build something greater than either of us could alone. Outside, the stars shone peacefully. The human fleet moved in a protective formation around the Koryo homeworld, and the eternal heritage, built over 4 centuries and transformed in 2 days, floated among them. A bridge between 2 ways of thinking, 2 approaches to the same universe. It was not the future June had imagined. It was better. The end.